rectangles. Getting our brains warmed up, writing equivalent decimals and percents for the following numbers. 2/3 is one of those that you just kind of need to know. It is 0.666 and 66 and 2/3%. 8/25, getting it out of 100, so multiplying it by 4. 8 times 4 is 32, so 32 hundredths and 32%. Getting this next one into 100, 50 times 2 is 100, 24 times 2 is 48 hundredths and 48%. 4/5, first go ahead and get it into tenths, or you can go into hundreds. It's 80% and 8/10. 19/20, multiply 20 by 5 to get to 100. 19 times 5 is 95 hundredths, 95%. 3/8, one of those that you maybe just kind of need to know once again, and it is 375 thousandths, or 37.5%. Area. What is area? Well, area is going to be the measure of the amount of surface included or enclosed in a boundary. It is a number of whole and partial units, squares, that cover the region without gaps or any overlaps. Sometimes the region can be covered by an exact number of squares. In that case, you can count all the squares and find the fraction of the squares. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it is 9 square inches. Area is reported in square units, so like square inches or square feet, square yards, square centimeters, square meters, so forth. So 3 times 3 is going to be 9, and we're measuring in inches, squares, because we have 9 squares. What does the word base mean? Because we're going to need to find a formula for multiplying or finding our area, and we'll need to know what the term base means. You may want to include this in your notes. Base means the side of a figure and the length of that side, whereas height is the length of a side adjacent to the base. So that's kind of the opposite, or maybe you want to say perpendicular to the base. So if we're going to take a look at this rectangle, because we are talking about rectangles today, I would label this as my base. Okay? It means the side of a figure with the length, and my height, how tall it goes, and it is adjacent, it is perpendicular to the base. When you were in 4th grade, you found area by counting the squares. You counted all the squares to find the rectangle. With the counting method, some rectangles enclose the partial grid squares. You must add the full and partial squares of the area. So if we were taking a look at C, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 full circles, or 4 full squares, excuse me. We have about 1 here and another full one here, so that's our 2. And then we have this little section, which is equal to about 1 out of 4, so 1/4. So we could say that this is equal to 6 1/4 centimeters. But there's also a different way that you can do it. It's by multiplying your base and your height. And I know that we've done a lot of math boxes in the past unit that have worked with this. Excuse me. So if we're taking a look at this rectangle, and our base, let's say, is 2 centimeters, and our height is 5 centimeters, we should be able to find out that the area, 2 times 5, is going to be 10 centimeters squared. We just multiply our base times our height. Looking at here, our base, we could say, is 4 centimeters, and the height of it maybe is 4 centimeters. Obviously, these are not accurate by any means. So multiplying our base times height, 4 times 4, to get 16. Notice that it is centimeters squared, because we are measuring in centimeters, and we always use squared for area. Very important, something maybe you want to include in your notes. All right, on your math journal, problem number 2, how could you cut the carpet to make it fit in the bed? Okay, in the bedroom, excuse me. So if this was our length of our carpet, if we would split it in half, we would be able to have 2 sections of it that would make it fit in the bedroom. The big ideas for today's lesson is knowing the formula for area, which is base times height. Okay. Your label should always be units squared, which could look like centimeters, or we talked about inches, but it has to have that little 2. Very important for area formulas for area of a rectangle. Important things to include in your notes today. Base times height, label should always be in units squared. If you follow those directions, you will be very successful in today's lesson.